Libra, my dear soul. What if this breakup isn't the end of something, but the divine beginning you've been silently praying for all along? Welcome to Zodiac Whisper Tarot. Today's message is not simply a reading, it's a divine alignment. It's the echo of a higher truth whispered into your life at the exact moment you're ready to hear it. Let's be clear from the very beginning. God is removing a person from your life for a reason. And that reason is sacred. Because what lies beyond this ending is not emptiness. It's a blessing. You're not just letting go of someone, you're stepping into the version of you that was buried under compromise, guilt, and silence. You didn't land on this video by accident. In fact, the very reason your soul brought you here is because you felt it, haven't you? That subtle pull in your heart. That tightness in your chest every time you try to hold together something that no longer holds you. Maybe you've been holding on to someone out of duty, out of history, or out of fear. But now, the divine is intervening. This separation, yes, the one that shakes you, is not a punishment. It's a sacred release. And that is the real blessing. Let me ask you something, Libra. What if the loss you're mourning is actually the answer to the prayer you once whispered in the dark? Today's reading is about honoring that shift. It's about reclaiming your emotional sovereignty. You're not here to shrink in love. You're not here to carry all the weight just to keep the peace. You were born to experience balance, but not the fake kind that demands your silence in exchange for someone else's comfort. In the next few minutes, we're going to uncover a truth that will move through your heart like warm light at dawn. You didn't lose them. You finally made space for yourself. That space? It's holy. And what's coming to fill it is more than just peace, it's abundance, divine love, restored joy, clarity, and spiritual gifts that were blocked by the very person you've now released. So take a breath. Place your hand on your heart. And ask yourself honestly, have I been living for me or for the version of me someone else needed me to be? Libra, your freedom is sacred. This moment is not chaos, it's choreography. You are in divine timing. Before we go deeper, I want to take a moment to say thank you. Truly. Thank you for your presence here. Every like, every comment, every subscription you offer doesn't just support this channel, it anchors you into the spiritual family we're building here at Zodiac Whisper Tarot. Your energy is felt. Your healing matters. And this message was meant for you. So, if you feel this truth landing in your heart, write this in the comments right now. I accept this release and welcome my divine blessings. Let the universe see your confirmation. Stay with me to the very end, because what's being revealed today is not just guidance. It's your breakthrough. Let's begin. There are moments in our lives when everything we once clung to begins to loosen, not because we've failed, but because we've finally outgrown the container that held us. This part of your journey, dear Libra, is not about loss. It's about realignment. You are not being punished. You are being refined. And yes, sometimes, that refinement begins with something that looks and feels like a fracture, like the shattering of something sacred. But beneath that surface, there is something far more holy happening. Your soul is being freed to expand beyond the shape it contorted into for far too long. When you've built a relationship around the idea that peace must come at the cost of your truth, it's easy to mistake silence for strength. But silence that hides your needs, your pain, your voice isn't peace. It's spiritual suppression. And you, Libra, were not born to walk this life as a shadow of yourself. You were born to walk it balanced but not burdened. And the divine, through the lens of astrology, has always revealed that your sign seeks equilibrium, not erasure. In the language of cosmic timing, transits often bring endings not to break you, but to make room for alignment. Saturn may place walls around you not to trap you, but to teach you about the integrity of your boundaries. Pluto may expose a truth you didn't want to admit, not to destroy your comfort, but to destroy the lie you were forced to live in. And in this season, something in your life, likely a connection, a dynamic, or a history, has reached its natural end because your frequency no longer matches the place where that story was born. Let's speak plainly. Letting go of someone you once built your emotional world around is never easy. But what's far more costly is staying in a version of yourself that cannot breathe. We sometimes hold on not because it still feels right, but because we've forgotten how to imagine a life without the roles we've been playing. But life doesn't ask you to pretend. It asks you to return to the soul deep, bone truth version of who you are. And when you release that which no longer holds you in love, you'll feel the most unexpected thing: lightness. A sacred exhale. A release so profound that you'll wonder why you ever believed you had to carry so much in the first place. There's a truth that often gets lost in the noise of healing culture. Not every connection is meant to be mended. Some are meant to be honored, grieved, and then laid down. Not because you didn't love hard enough, but because you finally chose to love yourself fully. Even in everyday spiritual practice, we are reminded that divine timing doesn't rush. It reveals. When the doors close, it's not rejection, it's redirection. When the voice inside says, "Enough," it's not weakness, it's wisdom. That quiet inner knowing? That's your soul remembering its original shape. So if you're feeling the ground shake beneath your emotional foundations, take it as a signal not of collapse, but of emergence. You're not losing your center. You're finally reclaiming it. And trust me, the clarity you'll feel once you're no longer fighting to hold up someone else's comfort will feel like a miracle in your bones. Don't rush to fill the space that's opening. Sit in it. Breathe in it. Let it echo with all the pieces of you that were once silenced. This isn't just an ending. It's a holy beginning. You are not falling apart. You are being made whole. Sometimes, when we let go of what we've outgrown, we expect the emptiness to be cold, heavy, even punishing. But what actually greets us is quite the opposite. There's a subtle shift, a softening in the air, and then, something else enters. Not all at once, but in waves. And that's exactly what happens when a Libra, like you, finally releases the energetic tether to someone who was never meant to walk with you into your next chapter. In that space, you just made 3 sacred shifts begin to ripple through your life, and each one holds a different kind of miracle. The first wave often comes through your material world: money, opportunity, abundance. It might not look dramatic at first. Maybe it's a check arriving at just the right time, a job opening you didn't expect, or someone offering support out of nowhere. You'll think, what are the odds? But that's the nature of divine orchestration. It's not random. Prosperity, in its truest form, isn't just about numbers in your bank account. It's about alignment. When you're no longer leaking energy into dead-end connections, your vibration rises. And what matches that frequency? Flow, not force. You become a magnet for what's meant for you because you're no longer clinging to what was draining you. The second shift comes through love, not the kind that demands performance or self-abandonment, but a love that recognizes your essence without needing you to shrink or change. It may arrive as a new connection or an awakening in your current relationship, but what matters is that this love sees you. You no longer have to earn presence, affection, or permission to feel. In astrological terms, this is Venus returning to her true home within you, where harmony is not negotiated through silence, but built on mutual honor and emotional truth. This is love as a mirror of your healing, not your past wounds. And then comes the third wave, the deepest, most quiet one. Your intuition begins to bloom in ways you didn't expect. You notice what you used to ignore. You feel things before they happen. You trust the no that rises in your chest and the yes that lights up your body. These aren't new abilities, they've been within you all along, buried under noise and need. When the soul is no longer at war trying to keep someone who isn't aligned, it can finally speak clearly. Your inner compass gets recalibrated. And as you learn to follow it, you begin to understand that intuition is not mystery, it's clarity softened into feeling. I've watched people, time and time again, who after releasing someone they thought they couldn't live without, begin to live more fully than ever before. And it's not because the loss didn't matter. It's because the space left behind became sacred ground. A friend of mine once let go of a toxic business partner after years of fearing financial ruin. Within 3 weeks, a client she'd been pursuing for years came to her with a better offer than she imagined. That's not coincidence. That's energy returning to its rightful owner. So if you're wondering whether letting go was the right move, consider this. The moment you stopped begging for crumbs, life started setting a full table. These miracles are not out of reach. They're on their way to you now, not because you forced them, but because you finally made space. And if any part of this speaks to you, I invite you to anchor it in your energy by writing this in the comments. I choose to release, and I welcome the 3 sacred blessings into my life. Let the universe know you're ready. Let your spirit know it is safe to receive. Because it is. You are. And it's already beginning. There's a quiet but undeniable moment that comes after the storm of a breakup, especially one that shook you to the core. It's not loud, not dramatic. In fact, it might arrive on an ordinary morning, when the light hits your face a little differently in the mirror, and for the first time in a long while, you don't look tired. You look alive. Something in your gaze has shifted. The weight behind your eyes has lifted. Your smile is no longer something you wear to reassure others, it rises naturally, unforced. This is not coincidence. It is the visible evidence of healing unfolding from the inside out. What you're experiencing is what astrologers often refer to as the post-retrograde glow, the moment after a long season of internal conflict where the soul, having shed what was never meant to stay, begins to radiate in its authentic form. For Libra, a sign often caught in the balance between self and others, this process is especially sacred. When you release the constant weight of trying to please, prove, or protect what was never yours to carry, your energy begins to recalibrate. Your nervous system softens. Your body remembers how to breathe fully again. And suddenly, the things that used to feel indulgent, sleeping peacefully, eating what nourishes you, listening to music that stirs your soul, begin to feel like acts of devotion. You return to the small joys that were pushed to the edges of your life while you were busy trying to hold everything else together. You find yourself sketching without judgment, journaling without censorship, dancing in your kitchen again. These aren't distractions. They're reconnections. They are your spirit reintroducing itself to you. In therapeutic self-help work, this is known as the reintegration phase. It's when you stop trying to survive and begin to truly live again. When your sense of worth is no longer conditional. When you no longer need to over-explain, apologize, or play small to be loved. That is power. Quiet, sacred power. And it often sneaks up on you, this version of yourself that is softer but stronger, clearer but more compassionate. This is what happens when you step out of survival mode and into presence. It's not that the pain disappears overnight, but your relationship to it changes. Instead of defining you, it informs you. Instead of limiting you, it becomes part of your wisdom. There's a profound kind of grace in becoming new without ever leaving your true self behind. It's not about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you've always been underneath the roles, the tension, the compromise. You were never meant to be the version of yourself that only exists in relation to others' expectations. You were meant to be whole, even if that wholeness meant walking away. When I think of this transformation, I'm reminded of the way seeds break open underground. It looks like destruction, but it's actually the beginning of growth. That version of you that's emerging, know it's the one that was buried under years of almosts, maybes, and if onlys. Now, you're no longer waiting for permission to bloom. And if it feels strange to feel peaceful after chaos, don't worry, that's normal. Healing can be disorienting when you're used to emotional turbulence. But peace is not a lie. Peace is your birthright. Give yourself permission to feel good without guilt. Give yourself permission to begin again, not as a reaction to someone else, but as a declaration of who you are now. The mirror doesn't lie. And when you look into it and see brightness again, know this: you didn't just survive something. You were reborn through it. And that version of you, glowing, grounded, and finally free, is the one you were always meant to become. It's often after the heaviest release that we begin to feel the subtle shift of doors opening quietly, intentionally, and often in ways we never expected. Libra, as the dust of your emotional transformation begins to settle, the universe doesn't leave you empty-handed. On the contrary, it begins to lay before you new paths, ones that resonate more closely with who you are now, not who you had to be in order to survive. These next 3 months will not be about rebuilding in the same shape. They will be about rising into new frequencies, new environments, and new roles that reflect the clarity you fought so long to earn. Let's start with your space. Your physical surroundings are more than just walls and furniture, they hold vibration. In energy work, we often say that the space around you is an extension of your aura. So when you shift emotionally, your environment must shift with you. You may feel an urge to move, to declutter, to fill your home with more light, air, and beauty. Follow that. Rearranging your space isn't superficial, it's symbolic. Adding a plant, opening a window, placing something meaningful on your altar, these are ways to signal to your subconscious that the old energy is no longer in control. It's a spiritual renovation, not just a physical one. And it opens the portal for prosperity to find you where you live. At the same time, new people will begin to arrive. But unlike before, you won't have to earn their presence or twist yourself into alignment just to belong. These are soul-aligned connections. They come not to complete you, but to walk beside you. You'll know them by how calm your body feels in their presence, how your voice doesn't tremble, and how your truth doesn't shrink. In astrology, we see this as the effect of clearing the seventh house, the house of relationships. Once the karmic cords are cut, you make room for something more sacred, companionship without condition. What might surprise you most, though, is the role reversal you didn't see coming. You, who have just come through your own darkness, are about to become the light for others. Not because you're trying to fix them, but because your healing naturally radiates outward. The very wounds you thought disqualified you are becoming your qualifications to lead, teach, and hold space for others. Whether through tarot, astrology, Reiki, intuitive writing, or simply by sharing your story on a platform like YouTube or TikTok, you are being called to guide. This isn't about having all the answers. It's about being willing to be seen in your truth so others can recognize theirs. In my work with spiritual communities around the world, I've seen countless examples of this. A woman who lost everything in a painful divorce ended up creating a support group that now helps thousands. A man who battled years of insecurity became a mentor to young artists afraid to speak. They didn't wait to be perfect. They answered the call from the middle of their story. And miracles met them there. You don't need to map the whole journey today. Just take the first step. Acknowledge that you are no longer only here to receive healing, you are here to carry it forward. As you do, you'll notice that giving light doesn't deplete yours. It strengthens it. Because when healing flows through you, it leaves something behind for you, too. So if your heart is already feeling the call, don't brush it away. It's not too soon. It's right on time. And if you're ready to embody that shift, I invite you to declare it in the comments below. Right, I am ready to be the light for myself and for others. Because you are. And the world needs what only you can give. When the energy around you begins to shift gently, yet profoundly, it is no coincidence. What's unfolding now for Libra is a divine invitation to participate in your own rebirth, to become a co-creator of your healing rather than a passive recipient of it. This sacred work, though deeply personal, does not require a grand gesture. It begins with simple, daily rituals, what I like to call the sacred rhythm of return. Each evening that you put pen to paper and let your heart bleed gently into a journal, you are doing more than processing feelings. You are clearing energetic residue. That act of writing without judgment is not merely reflective, it is magnetic. It draws clarity toward you and repels what no longer aligns. Painful memories lose their sting when they are acknowledged, named, and released in a safe, conscious container. In parallel, your body carries its own story, one written in the language of breath, motion, and stillness. Gentle movements like walking, yoga, or spontaneous dance are not just exercises, they are spiritual exhalations. When you allow your body to express what your mind is still trying to make sense of, you create a harmonious release, an exit door for trapped emotions. This is not about pushing yourself into perfect posture or performance. It is about being present in your own skin and honoring the sacred vessel that has carried you through every storm. Now, as your external world begins to mirror your internal transformation, the importance of your physical space cannot be overstated. Colors like turquoise and metallic gold aren't just aesthetic, they carry energetic codes. Turquoise calms the nervous system and aligns with Libra's airy essence, inviting clarity and soothing the mind. Gold awakens confidence and divine self-worth, subtly reminding you that you are royalty in your own right. As you intentionally decorate with symbols of balance, scales, circles, protective angels, you are building more than a home. You are building a temple where the soul can rest, recharge, and remember its wholeness. Gratitude becomes the glue that binds all your inner work into something tangible. When you write down 5 things you're grateful for, even if one of them is as honest and raw as, "I cried today," and let it out, you are honoring your emotional truth. That sincerity opens the gates of divine favor wider than forced optimism ever could. Gratitude doesn't deny your struggle, it simply gives your soul a place to stand when everything else feels shaky. And finally, when you whisper a prayer, whether aloud or within the sanctuary of your thoughts, you are not just speaking to the divine, you are speaking into the architecture of your future. God, grant me the courage to let go and the peace to receive what is mine. This is more than a prayer, it's a portal. A gentle key that unlocks the door to surrender, trust, and quiet alignment. You don't have to shout to be heard in the spiritual realm. Your quiet surrender echoes louder than resistance ever could. These spiritual practices are not boxes to check, but invitations to soften into who you are becoming. They do not promise a life without challenge, but they create a foundation so steady that no storm can uproot what has been deeply rooted in faith, clarity, and love. And in that space, Libra, miracles become not just possible but inevitable. Libra, dear soul, you were never meant to wait for permission. You were born with the divine right to heal, to rise, to receive. The universe isn't checking your worthiness, it already knows you are worthy. What it waits for is your yes. Your whispered consent to let the blessings pour in. You don't have to chase them. You don't have to force the doors open. You only need to allow. And in that quiet allowing, everything begins to shift. Think back to everything you've released, the tears, the heartbreak, the silent battles. None of it was in vain. Every step you took toward healing, even when no one else could see, has built a sacred path beneath your feet. And now, the moment has come when your heart no longer needs to prove itself. It just needs to receive. This video was more than a message. It was a mirror reflecting back the strength, the softness, the divine spark inside you that perhaps you forgot you had. But I see it. The universe sees it. And deep down, you feel it too, don't you? That this moment is different. That something is cracking open in the invisible realm. That the tears you've cried have watered the soil for a miracle about to bloom. And now I ask you, with all the gentleness and power that lives in your Libra heart, what would happen if you stopped doubting and simply said, "Yes, I allow the miracle meant for me"? How would your life change if you truly believed that being chosen doesn't require perfection, only openness? You are not broken. You are in transition. You are not abandoned. You are being prepared. You are not too late. You are right on time. This journey isn't about proving your light. It's about remembering that your light has always been there. And if you're still watching, I believe you're ready to walk through the gate the universe has quietly unlocked for you. So take a breath. Let go of what doesn't serve you. And step in. Comment below to affirm this new chapter. I release what is not mine and I welcome my miracle. Not just words, but a declaration to the universe that you're ready. And if this message touched your spirit, Libra, honor that nudge by liking this video and subscribing to Zodiac Whisper Tarot. Your energy feeds this sacred space and your presence helps expand it to others who also need to remember they are chosen, too. You don't need to fight for what's already yours. You only need to say yes to the blessing. Now, Beloved Libra, go let the miracle find you. It already knows your name.